Welcome to Class with Skeul, where Black American history, news, and real issues are taught with clarity, structure, and purpose. This is not surface-level content. This is a timeline, a record, a correction. Every episode is built to teach what was done, what was fought for, and what was taken. From revolts to wars, from policy to resistance, we break it down so it can be understood, remembered, and never rewritten. Because history that isn't taught clearly can be distorted, and history that is distorted can be used against the people it belongs to. Here, we focus on accuracy, on connection, on truth. Not just to inform, but to preserve. Not just to explain, but to expose. Because this isn't just about the past. It's about understanding the present and recognizing what continues. Each video is part of a larger structure, so nothing is isolated and nothing is forgotten. Stay focused, stay aware, stay connected. Cry aloud, spare not. Lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and shew my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins. Isaiah 58:1.
Episode 8. The Civil War Begins, 1861 to 1863. Part 1. From Crisis to War. By 1861, the conflict that had been building for decades finally broke. After the election of Abraham Lincoln, Southern states began to secede from the Union. They formed the Confederacy, determined to protect a system built on slavery and expansion. What had been political tension became open war. The first shots were fired at the Battle of Fort Sumter in South Carolina. The Civil War had begun. At first, the Union framed the war as a fight to preserve the nation, not to end slavery. That distinction mattered, because for Black Americans, the outcome of the war would determine everything: freedom or continuation of the system. From the beginning, Black Americans were not passive observers. They moved, they acted. As Union armies advanced into Southern territory, enslaved Black people began escaping in large numbers, heading toward Union lines. They understood something critical. This war created opportunity. Union generals were forced to make decisions. At first, there was no clear policy for what to do with escaped enslaved people, but that quickly changed. In 1861, Union General Benjamin Butler declared escaped enslaved people to be contraband of war, meaning they would not be returned to Confederate owners. This shifted the dynamic. Union lines became spaces of transition, not fully free, but no longer under direct control. At the same time, Black Americans pushed for a larger role. They wanted to fight. They understood that participation in the war could shape the outcome and their place in what came after. But the Union government hesitated. There was resistance to arming Black men. Concerns about politics, loyalty, and control slowed the decision. Still, pressure continued to build, because the reality was becoming clear. This war could not be separated from slavery, and it could not be won without confronting it.
If you've made it this far, you're not just watching. You're following Black American warrior history in its full timeline. On Class with Skeul, every episode connects, showing resistance, strategy, and power across generations. If you're tapped in, support the channel. Hit like so more people see this. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Turn on the notification bell so you're there when it drops. And share this with someone who needs the full story, not just pieces. This isn't random content. It's a structured history. Stay locked in. The next episode goes deeper. Part 2. Turning the war into a fight for freedom. As the war continued, the purpose of the conflict began to shift. What started as a fight to preserve the Union became something more. A fight that would directly challenge slavery itself. Black Americans played a major role in that shift. Through continued escape, labor, and pressure, they forced the issue into the center of the war. They worked for Union forces, provided intelligence, and supported military efforts in multiple ways. They made themselves essential, and that changed policy. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. This declared that enslaved people in Confederate-held territory were free. It did not immediately end slavery everywhere, but it changed the nature of the war. Now the Union was officially fighting against the system, and it opened a door for something critical: Black military service.
Following the proclamation, black men were formally allowed to enlist in the Union Army and Navy. This marked a major shift from earlier restrictions. It also marked the beginning of large-scale black participation in the war effort. Men who had been denied the right to fight were now stepping forward in large numbers. They were not just supporting the war, they were entering it, training, organizing, preparing for combat. This was the continuation of a pattern that had been building for generations, from revolts to alliances to organized resistance. Now it was becoming full military participation on a national scale. The war was changing, and so was the role of black Americans within it. They were no longer on the edges of the conflict. They were moving into its center. Because the next phase would not just be about policy. It would be about action on the battlefield, and proving, once again, that they were not just part of the story, they were shaping its outcome. The fight was no longer just for the Union, it was for freedom, and the next stage would decide how that fight was won.
If you made it to the end, stay tapped in. Like this video so it reaches more people. Subscribe to Class with Skeul for the full timeline. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Drop a comment. What stood out, what should be added, and what you want covered next.